Greetings. Each Monday, I'm going to be posting a creative mindfulness activity that we can do together as a community. Now, we're not literally going to be physically doing that together, but it's something that we can practice and know that we're sharing this throughout the week. What I would almost encourage is each week as we do one of these different creative mindfulness activities, then maybe if you have the time, if you're at home, you don't have a whole lot going on, try this a few times during the week. See how it resonates with you. If it doesn't, leave it behind. That's fine. If it does, let it become a part of your regular practice. Now, what I want to start out with is on the holyimagination.org website. If you click on the Mondays tab, we're going to have all those videos linked there. What I would recommend doing before doing any of these mindfulness activities is that you do either the body scan or the still sound meditation that we have already posted on the site. I think these are great ways to center oneself, to make sure that we're fully aware and present while we're doing these activities. Now, this first activity is one that I learned very recently, and I want to thank Carol Crumley for leading this on part of a retreat that I attended. But what it is it's haiku writing. And I was really excited about bringing it to More Than Mindfulness Mondays, but unfortunately, because of everything that's happened, we aren't able to gather. So I did still really want to share this with you, this idea of writing haikus as a mindfulness activity. There's two parts to this. The first part will be the haiku writing. The second part, which is purely optional, will be an opportunity to creatively engage in whatever haiku that you wrote. Now, if you want to be prepared for the first part, it's pretty straightforward. All you need is a piece of paper, a pen, a journal, something along those lines, something you can write haikus in. If you want to take it to the next step and do the creative engagement, what I would recommend is having kind of maybe a sturdier piece of paper, some glue, some scissors, some construction paper. I have these brush markers. I'm not sure how great they are. Really any kind of marker that you feel like you can control would work. If you're somebody who's a fan of calligraphy, I know very little about calligraphy, but this is a great opportunity to maybe do some calligraphy. There's lots of great videos on calligraphy, and maybe if we're lucky enough, we can try to get a calligraphy video up on here in the coming weeks. Or just using crayons, or colored pencils or markers, anything along those lines. The idea is we're going to have this opportunity to write the haiku, and then if we feel so moved to engage that haiku a little more creatively, and just again to allow this notion that creativity is spirituality, and to allow ourselves to be free into that creativity, I think is really important. And this is an opportunity. And again, we're not trying to necessarily make an end product here. We're not trying to do anything perfect. We're just trying to allow our creativity to flow, to open ourselves up to whatever may be moving within us. So, if you have not already done the body scan video or the still sound meditation, go ahead, pause this, go do that, and you can come back. Now, on to the haiku writing. And you may be saying, haikus, aren't those incredibly restrictive poems that we all learned about maybe in middle school or elementary school, and that there's a very rigid structure? How can that rigidness be mindful? But I want to kind of talk through that a little bit. And again, I'm leaning very heavily on Carol Crumley. But simple awareness of the present. This is very much the spirit of haiku writing. And this is, I think, if we're bringing an intent into this process, the intent is not to form a perfect haiku with perfect meter and perfect syllables, but instead to allow this practice to be something that helps us be aware and present. And in these anxious times, it can be challenging to be aware and present. So again, the spirit of haiku writing is simple awareness of the present. Living this here and now moment to the full, experiencing the flow of the energy of life. And it is an egoless process. if we take this very seriously, we forget the separate self in simple contemplative awareness. There is no self-centered sentimentality. There is no judgment. We are simply letting what is appear on the page. There's a communion. There's a direct, deep, non-dual experience of inner being, oneness that permeates everything. And when we're writing really good haikus, and good is maybe not the best term here, but when we write haikus that resonate in that simple stillness, in just the fullness of that which surrounds us, they become this great entryway into deeper engagement, into deeper being. So, the basic techniques of haiku writing is there are 3 lines. That's maybe the one rule that we're going to stick to and that we're going to be kind of firm about. This idea of 3 lines. Now, there are different ways of doing this. The first line can be, and these are kind of traditional understandings of haiku, but the first line can be 2 syllables, the second line 3 syllables, and the third line back to 2 syllables. This kind of alternating, one short, one a little bit longer, one a little bit shorter. You can also do 5 syllables, 7 syllables, back to 5 syllables. But I also want to point out this isn't just about counting our syllables. Free verse is okay as well. I think anything that one can do that creates that kind of parallel structure of 1 line short, 1 line long, back to 1 line short, I think that resonates. And to not focus too much on the syllables is important. Something else that's important, present tense, usually. Now, again, these are not hard and fast rules. Whatever works for you is you'll probably hear me say, as one of my teachers said to me, we meditate as we can, or we do contemplation as we can, not as we should. So let's not focus on the shoulds. Let's focus instead on what we can do. The language style is minimum of evocative specific, a minimum of evocative specific concrete words, free grammatical structure. Now, there are no abstract or general statements, no comparisons, no metaphors. Write only what is here and now. And to avoid personal pronouns. So what I want to do is I want to read to you a couple examples. And you'll notice if you pay really close attention, these are not strict 2-3-2 or 5-7-5 haikus. Many of them, this first one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just to give you an example. You get short, long, short, but on the first one you have 5, the last one you have 4. So pay attention to that. But I want to read through a couple of these for you so you have some examples. Footprints in the sand, to here and there and nowhere, and the gull flying. This one is written by Hando. Here's another one. Calm winter evening. A fishing boat returns, laden with the sun. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce this gentleman's last name, but I think it's Horauchi. Another one by him is On the green fields, rootless clouds rest, their shadow. And this one's interesting because this is actually a 4-4-2. Doesn't have that balance. So again, the rules are not as important as the feeling, as this sense of being ultimately present. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do, wherever you are, is to just take that moment. If you've already done your meditation, hopefully you're centered, and just to pay attention to what's around you, what may be in the room, what may be out the window, and to be present in that moment, and to give yourself a few seconds to just really try to rest into that. What is this moment? What is this very moment? This is where we go pen to paper. And again, this is more instruction. You can certainly feel free to expand on this in your own time, but for the sake of that, we don't want to be here for an hour. I've already written out, I worked on some haikus before we started. I came up with one that I wanted to use, and you'll see I edited it greatly. I did not get it the first time around. We just let these things kind of flow out of us. We play with them a little bit. But again, it's not so much about paying attention to the words or the grammar, but what I was doing is I was trying to pay attention to what it was that was around me in this moment. And for me, I'm looking out the window, and it's raining. and it's quiet out. So the one thing that I noticed, and you can't see it from here, the tree branch outside my window, there's these really early leaf buds coming, and you can see through to the branch, and on the branch is holding drops of water. And so this is the haiku that I came up with. Rain falls on still silence like dew. And so this is the haiku that I'm gonna use for the rest of our activity. Now, whatever you've written, you can. The last time I did this, I ended up writing a whole bunch of haikus, maybe one or two of them. I felt were more emblematic of this sense of deep unity. So feel free to take all the time you need to write the haikus. And this second part, if you don't want to do the second part, that's fine. If you just enjoy writing the haikus and using that as your mindfulness, sitting still, being aware, paying attention. Maybe it's the sound of the faucet dripping in the kitchen. Maybe it's the chair that you're sitting in. Whatever it is, allow that to speak to you in the present moment, in the here and now. All right, so here we go with a potential second part of our haiku writing. Again, I am not much of a calligraphist, but I've found in our group we have a couple folks that do enjoy calligraphy, and so if you've come to one of our More Than Mindfulness Mondays where we've done kind of a calligraphy session, this idea of writing slowly has really kind of caught my attention. And the nice thing about a haiku is it's nice and short, so you can kind of write slowly, but write it without taking a really long time. One of the things that we've done, and you can do this part separate from the haiku. If you just have a quote that you really like, you can do this part with just that quote, and that would be perfectly fine as well. But to take our time, for me, I have really bad handwriting, so to pay attention to my handwriting is a great mindfulness activity for me. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write the haiku here using one of these brush pens, taking my time. And as I write, I'm paying attention to my actions. I'm going slowly and deliberately. Rain falls. And I would even say, if you want to, go even slower than I'm going, even more deliberate. On, still. Now, whether you have a brush pen or just a regular pen, any pen that you have, just making sure that you're taking your time. You could write it in crayon, you could write it in colored pencil, you could paint it if you wanted with watercolor or acrylic. The idea here is just being aware, taking the time, slowing down. I know this time of self-isolation, of social distancing, we find ourselves maybe having more time than we know what to do with, and when we slow that down, we have the opportunity to rest into this time, to allow it to transform us. So you'll see I don't, again, have the greatest handwriting or the greatest ability when I'm doing this, but you'll see, again, just write it out, took my time. I'd recommend going even slower than I went. And for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead, and I have found that I really enjoy, and some of the things that we're doing with More Than Mindfulness Monday is I really enjoy cutting out construction paper. I find it a very calming kind of experience. And I kind of, while I was preparing for this and while I was meditating and just centering myself to do this activity, I had this kind of, what I do is when I do these activities, I kind of imagine, I see some sort of feeling, some sort of visual, and just kind of let my scissors cut. Again, I'm not trying to necessarily make a literal interpretation of what it is that I'm thinking or in this case, since we're kind of pairing this with words, I'm not necessarily trying to make it literal, but what is that feeling? What is it as I looked out the window and I see those dripping drops of water on the branches? What is that feeling? And how do we represent that creatively? And again, this is really this idea of art as spirituality, of letting ourselves freely create. And so what I kind of saw was I have these three shapes, and just this feeling of kind of letting them just kind of rest on top of one another in a layered way. And again, do wherever your kind of heart may be moving you, whatever you may be feeling. To say I'm now doing this a little differently than I thought, but each one a little bit bigger than the last one, just to kind of give this sense of structure to it. What I'm going to do is ideally, to be honest, when you come to More Than Mindfulness Monday, you'll see that we use glue sticks, which tend to work really well, but at the house right now, I actually don't have glue sticks. All our glue sticks are at Bump and Grind at the coffee shop. So I'm just using this tacky glue, which isn't maybe the best. I'm just gluing this one down to that one, and I'm doing it deliberately. Again, I'm not worrying about outcome. I'm just letting it be. What am I feeling? What is this moment speaking to me? Be playful. Let your imagination run free. And then I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to glue this. Again, man, I wish I had a glue stick. But we live with what we have. See, very basic, very simple. I might, after turning this off, and just go back to basics and just maybe I'll color a little bit. Maybe I'll take some of these crayons and just kind of see where it leads me. But again, just be free with yourself. Especially if you're doing this at home, nobody else is going to see it. Nobody else is going to judge it. So let yourself be. Now, if you do create something that you do want to share, feel free to post it to Instagram or to share it on the Center for the Holy Imagination Facebook page. If you do it on Instagram, maybe just hashtag Holy Imagination or More Than Mindfulness Monday or Mondays, one of those. We'll be trying to follow those hashtags here in the coming days. Or feel free to email contemplativeimagination@gmail.com with any images that you may have. And we'd love to share what you create, because again, we are a community together. We are not alone during this time. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for being with me. And I look forward to seeing all of you very soon.